after UCC,
Yeah.
you went into mainstream right after, or
No.
it took a while?
Oh, after UCC, yeah, I went to work. I was working. I didn't have the luxury, given my family background, of saying I was going to do music entirely. And I loved teaching so much that it wasn't one of the options. Actually, I settled for teaching also because I felt it would give me a bit more time to do the music ministry. And so I went into teaching.
Wow. So at what time did you decide that, let me go into mainstream?
Did I ever go into mainstream? Maybe I should understand what you mean by mainstream.
As in releasing songs,
recording
for
you
albums.
mean to be a recording artist?
Yes.
That was 2000 and no. I think right from school, I knew that I was going to work and I knew that I was going to produce music because I've had a prophecy from campus already about what the Lord was going to use me for.
Wow.
Out there. I remember Pastor Joe Beecham gave me one prophecy through the Lord through Pastor Joe Beecham gave me one prophecy when we met at a program. I'm not sure he will remember. When we met at a program at Fiapre in Sunyani. And then he said that the Lord has raised in my generation a number of people to be Davids and Davidesses.
Wow.
And that I'm one of them.
Wow.
So I have always known that I've not been called as the best amongst people, but rather to be a part of a move of God that God was doing. So by then I've also had the opportunity to be back in Nyokai from his first album Okobe.
Okay.
And so working with him and standing behind him, I was always inspired that a day will come when I will get to write songs and push my songs out there.
How was it working with Reverend Ukraine?
It was eye-opening. It was inspiring. One of the best things that happened to him was that man. I mean, having the opportunity to stand behind him, to see his humility, his love for God. He was someone who could easily have gone after money because by then he was the ish around that, like in that season, but he still kept his humility and focused on his assignment. And so I learned a lot from him and I have loved him since up to now. And he really encouraged me. Actually, he was one of the people who actually encouraged me to even start recording at all. And when I finished the album, he was one of the people who took it around to some of the radio stations where he had favor for it to be played. And that's how I got introduced.
Wow. Reverend Yukai.
Yes. We could go for programs. After I finished the album and released it, we could go for programs, his program. And we are just there backing him up. Then he would just pause after, let's say 15 minutes to the end of the time. And say, oh, I have a young brother here who has some beautiful song. I think I want you to hear it. And I'll go forward and go and sing Family.
Wow.
Yes, that was it.
Wow. Reverend Yukai. it's like, it's interesting, like an enabler.
Yeah, yes. He has this apostolic calling that brings about enablement. Yeah. Around
he just
you.
Carries people.
Yeah, he does a lot.
Wow.
He does a lot.
Okay. Working on your first project, how was it like?
All right, so like my first project was just like a continuum from the Echoes relationship. So we built that relationship with Koda in 2001, and so that relationship continued until 2007.
Wow.
When 2006, I left campus in 2005. Then 2006, we started working. So when I was doing my national service, I would use my national service alawa. And then I had some of my friends, particularly my former roommates, now Reverend William Nanadanso, who had already pledged that he believed in my ministry and that in future he would support my ministry. He's been a great support.
Wow.
And so I remember around that time when we were producing, he was also doing his national service. And then he would send me money that, oh, bro, add it to your money and then use it for the production.
Wow.
You know? And then I had other people at Mount Olivet Methodist Church who would also my Olivet Voices team who also support and sow into it. So I actually recorded the entire first album on credit. And so what I had, then I'll give it to Koda. I remember even when I go to his end.
Koda gave you the room like to record for you, later pay me.
And later pay me.
Wow.
To the extent that I was so rich in the opposite direction that when I go to visit him, he had already completed and was almost done with his national service. He would normally, I don't remember the last time I went to work with Koda and bought my own food for almost the 20 years we have worked.
Wow.
Yes. Earlier on when he was in the kitchen coop by then. I mean, we sleep there. We sleep.
The Hen Coop studio.
I will sleep where he's sleeping just because I don't have money by then for hotel bills and things. And we recorded. And so when we were done, we did the launch at Mount Olivet. I remember it's the 8th of March, 2008 at Dansoman. And almost everybody, Papa Daninetti of blessed memory, Uncle Ato, like quite a number of the big brothers. Everybody just came around. That Chumo, Henry and Co. Everybody was there, and we launched the album. I was still owing Koda. So I remember on the Tuesday when we had done all the accounts and everything. By God's grace, I had enough money, and I paid Koda all I owed him for the production, and I was really excited. And that also cemented a relationship of trust between me and him. And so many times I may not have money to do a production, we will produce it. When we get the money, we pay.
Wow. How could that?
And until his passing, we were working on a particular project, like the first song for a particular project, and for the first time we had money to pay everything up front.
Wow.
And so he was teasing me that, hey bro, we have come far. So I mean, if you want to talk about my recording, me as a recording artist, it's been basically Koda of blessed memory. I mean, his transition has been a hard hit for quite a number of us. I don't know, but for me, it's been a very hard hit because just, if you do not know, just a week before his passing, we all thought he was very fine, and he really came out to play on my live recording for the song we're working on. And so, Charlie.
Wow.
It's something, but it is well.
It is well. So, do you remember the moment when you got the news about whether him being hospitalized or his passing? Do you remember the moment?
Yes, I remember that it was a Sunday morning. I know where I was. I was at a Bree. Yes, doing some work there, and I was called, and I was given the news that he's gone. I was told that he's gone, and the relationship transitioned from just a money. I need grace to gather my thoughts. The relationship transitioned from being just a client and producer relationship to a friend relationship, and then to a brother relationship. I could talk to Koda.
Wow.
Yeah, beyond just productions, I could talk to Koda, and someone who can hold your hands and pray with you and tell you that, like, tell you what God's mind is for you, and like Charlie. So it's been a hard hit. I mean, everybody's hard hit, but it is well. It is well.
Wow.
It is well.
Well, do you have what are some of the fond memories you have of him? The funny moments?
You know, I remember earlier on when we first met, he would tease me by rhyming my name. He said, Zuta with a buta.
He's capable of doing that.
You know, and then in those times when my tree wasn't so good,
Very capable.
I'll do some ad libs and it will sound funny, and Koda will laugh at you. He will laugh, my God. He will laugh at you, you know. I mean, he was a big brother. Like, you know, the number of years in terms of age is just about a year. But I revered him and my relation with him. I don't call him Kofi. I call him Bra Kofi. You know, that kind of thing. And I mean, he's one of the people who gave me confidence that what I felt were inadequacies in my music, in my voice, in everything, were all part of my unique build. And so I just need to be comfortable with it and allow God to use it. You know, I could really goof in a live recording, and by the time we finish the post-production, everything is sounding perfect, because he will call you to come and do whatever you need to do. Sometimes he will do some of the things without even you knowing. I remember the Yesue, the Wosong album that we recorded in 2012. I remember I had the Tuesday before the Sunday, I went to Rollins Park to buy some things for the production. And I was hungry, and I couldn't resist the temptation of going to eat fufu and tilapia at one of the chop bars at Rollins Park. Please don't be eating certain food before a production. And then I had, unfortunately, the bone of a tilapia stuck in my throat, which really injured my vocal cords. I couldn't tell the team. My brother Henry Dachimo was the music director then. I couldn't even tell him because we had worked so hard. And so I went through the recording with excruciating pain. And eventually, by all means, it will affect the audio. So later we had to come and re-record it based on the live, you know, and Koda had the patience. Wow. And so he has a very special place in my life and my heart. Yeah.
Now let's talk about that Yesue album.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think that was also another shift in what God was doing with the contemporary worship sound through you. That particular song, Yesue, that we all know you for, at least as one of the songs you've done. What was the story behind that song?
So I got introduced somehow to Christology.
Okay.
That talks about the nature of Christ, his divinity, his work, his ministry, who he is, and all. And, you know, I felt like, then the ultimate, theology that we should be pushing is him. So I wanted a song that is one simple, but that has a lot of Jesus in it. You understand? So if we say that I mention on the name Jesus, every knee must bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, then anytime people hear a song that is like every 3 seconds, there's Yesu somewhere. Then you can imagine what will be happening in the realms of the spirit when that song is sung. And so for almost like a year, that was my prayer. And don't forget, I told you that I don't have any technical background. And so I don't normally, it's only recent times with my knowledge that I will sit down and deliberately write songs from scratch. Now I do that. But those times I didn't have any framework. And so I was just listening to the Holy Spirit. Lord, this is the song I want. I remember. I'll be walking. Then times, I said, those times I had, what do you call it? There was a lot of traffic from Dansoman, what do you call it? Sakaman Junction to Malam. And I was living at White Cross area. And so sometimes we just walk from Sakaman to cross over the Malam before you pick a car. And I remember I'll be walking by the roadside after school, as in teaching at Mount Olivet Methodist Academy. And I'll be just either singing and humming something about Yesu in my head. Until one day, this melody crossed my spirit. Then you know the interesting thing. Most of the melodies that cross will leave me. But this melody, it stayed. When I'm even there and I'm not doing anything, it will come by itself. And so I just put it somewhere. And then when it was time for this production to be done, I brought it up. And even with the team, it was an instant.
Wow.
That song was not the best song on the album. At least with regards to my writing, that song was not the best song on the album. But that song became the song that people caught onto from the night.
Wow.
And I must say that the rhythm, setting it to the Hillsong rhythm, also played a major part. That particular song was mainly produced by Henry Dachomo of Bethel Revival Choir. He produced that album together with Koda. He was a co-producer. And that song, he set the rhythm to it with the help, like together with Bludo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those times in the early 2000s, or how were you keeping songs? Since there weren't a lot of smartphones for recording, how were you?
Yeah, they used to be. I used to have this Samsung. You know, there's this. It was a primitive form of this.
Okay.
That the journalist used to have.
Okay.
So I remember that a friend of mine, a recorder, brought an aspect. It was an MP3 recorder.
Okay.
You remember those things?
Yes.
A friend of mine brought brought something like that from the, I think, UK.
Wow.
And then so I borrowed it, and so I was normally using it, though I misplaced it eventually, but I was the one using it. And so, and then the analog phones also started having some mono recording function, and so I would do that. But I think earlier on, I did quite a number of things in my memory.
Wow.
I did quite a lot of things from memory. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how was it after releasing Yesu, that album, and the song was catching on? How was the feeling like?
You will be surprised if I tell you that to a large extent, I have been dealt with in a particular way from campus. Echoes of Calvary and Olivet Voices taught me that this ministry is not about myself. And so we normally practice giving glory to God. And so though it felt fulfilling to know that, oh, by God's grace, you are being a blessing. Some way, somehow, I never understood how big the impact and the move was until many years later. I never did. So you won't see me now trying to build up on that experience, try to entrench my position, because for me, I didn't enter into this music ministry because I felt I was good for it. I just entered into it because I felt like the Lord has called me for that assignment. And so that is why I was doing it. And so I was pleased to know that God was being glorified.
Wow.
And this is not a jargon. I'm telling you the truth. Yeah. And so I struggled with with being seen. And so what it did to me was that it rather made me recoil. And so normally what people will do is now find ways and means to now press certain knobs so that they'll be doing things that will sustain the move. I did the opposite. I rather went underground. And so people knew my songs, but they hadn't met me before. People knew my name, but they didn't know me.
Interesting. Wow.
And unfortunately or fortunately, that was the early onset of YouTube and the internet. And so the move, that viral move of that project was just purely God's doing, because I didn't grant interviews, I was not doing promos, I was not doing anything. The CDs I wanted to sell, I'm sure by now, the few 50 or 200 I sent to Katamanto, I'm sure it's still there by now.
Hey God, this ministry.
So God it's purely a God thing. If it were today and under the same circumstances, I'm sure we will say it's a global hit.
Wow. It is. And I believe, songs are like waves. The way they hit, they are like waves. Or the way God uses us or blesses us. So maybe in this year, God takes us to another level. Then another wave he'll carry us with another wave. So don't be surprised if within the next few years, that song, if translated it into English, that song, like the way what happened to Waymaker.
Yeah.
We were sitting down, we were locked up, and God through a funny way elevated that song. Yeah. But it was released like 8 years or 5 years before.
And for me, I understand that thing. Yeah. I do really understand that. That is why, if you notice, this is the way I work. I'll come, release the work, and then get out of the space and go and do other things. Because personally, I don't see that it's me at work, it's God at work. It had its own disadvantages in terms of the industry. But at least I am fulfilled knowing that I'm doing what I am wired to do, the way God wants me to do it.
Yeah, but at least let's see your face more.
You want to see my face?
Now it's better.
Now you are agreeing. Now you are agreeing. Now it's better. So it is improving. Now at least it's better. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Now it's better. I am quite a private person.
I know.
But for the ministry, you wouldn't have heard of me. I like being in the background.
I identify with you, pa. Yes Way album. One of my personal favorites was I gave it all to you. I gave it all to you, my life. I've ministered it in church in Kumasi before. So.
And you're not alone. There are many people who love the song. People also love, there's another song on it, and himself.
That too was beautiful.
For me.
Beautiful.
For me.
Beautiful.
That is the best song on the album.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Then you ended with the Padada Apatamba.
Look, you would think that your work has not made impact until you meet someone who can sing from song 1 to the last song, and even when people are singing it, they will tell the person that you missed this part. That's when you know you made impact. And I get that a lot.
Wow. So Yes Way, and you produce other albums.
Yes.
I'm sure that is one of the highlights of your
my ministry, my music ministry.
What has been some of the low moments for you in ministry?
I think the low moments is to know that the authenticity of your music or your content is not enough in getting you to receive the attention you deserve.
Explain with diagrams.
With regards to the space.
Okay.
With regards to the space. Now, over time, many more people have come. And so you may have to do much more work to put your work out there to gain attention.
Okay.
And so after that product, I've done 4 more products, 4 more complete albums, and in between 1 or 2 singles. But my laid back nature now works against me in that you don't get to put in the effort that you are supposed to put in, given that times have changed. And so at the end of the day, the songs and the work there are extremely quality work, because when people get into contact with them, they said you have all these things. They say you have all these things there and we don't know about it. You understand? And so for me, that has been my major challenge. Setting up myself in such a way that I can get people out there who are also vested in that to promote the work. And that is because of a weakness I have. And the weakness is that I like my things done in a certain way. And if it's not being done that way, I feel I get some way. You understand? And so I think that I've been praying for grace to trust God and to trust people that they will do things that they are experts in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At a point, did you ever feel like lack of response and other challenges? Did it make you ever feel like, Charlie, let me stop?
1,000 times and more.
Let me stop.
Several times I've actually stopped. Like I've made my decision this year. From this year onwards, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I'll be there and then the songs will come.
What were the triggers that made you go into those moments?
Well, I think one of them is being taken for granted. I mean, people invite you. You know, like I said, I'm not one of those who really honed the business side of what we do. And that is very, very important. But we must understand that some of us are wired in a certain way. And so we should be able to let other people within our system, our value system, handle those areas for us. And so I've been abused in many ways. I mean, people inviting you to a ministry and for ministry and treating you a certain way. Sometimes you use all the money on you to take a whole team to a place, and after you are done, you are told that we will call you, and it doesn't come, and you have to also take care of the team. And you know, the funny thing is also that those same people, when they meet my other brothers who are more experienced, will be complaining that they like money too much. But then when they also meet your kind, they also treat you. And so eventually, I mean, many of us started having a kind of, we are ministers, though we deserve it, we are free, we will do the ministry, be a blessing to us. And the abuse of that is what made some of the brothers take a certain hard stand. And then eventually they also accused and all. But for me, quite a number of these encounters really made me want to just forget about this whole ministry. I'm grateful to God I didn't. I mean, there have been times when you go for I went for administration, emptied my account, and then took the entire team for the administration, finished the administration, gave them transport, because what we give to them is not payment. We can't pay them, and so we give them transport. And then I was given a check, and the check bounced. Maybe this is about almost 6-7 years ago. Maybe tomorrow the check will clear. You know, that thing broke me. Okay, but I also didn't want to I know that God has not called me to make my ministry like the ministry I'm doing to be my source of sustenance. That is why I was working. But Danny, it's not easy, and it broke me. Now you have to do productions. You have to now gather people again and ask for money. And eventually you end up running into debt sometimes. And I was like, Lord, I pledge allegiance, but I give up. And not just that, the way, like somebody's having a program, you thought of bringing somebody to the administrative grace occasion. You pay for powerful lights, you pay for powerful video, and then the vessel that God is going to use, you forget the person. I mean, I've traveled out of Accra, and I've had to come back empty-handed, and it began affecting a lot of things.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a huge challenge. Yeah, it's one of the things. Then, we all have. For those of us who are married, Charlie, you can't just go out there and be spending all the time doing ministry, and then you can't take care of the home. Eventually, to bring challenges, and so for me, those were also some of my motivations. I mean, if I'm doing this thing and it's not helping, it's either God doesn't want me to do it or I'm not doing it the right way. And so those things made me want to. And I actually took major steps to walk away. But the Holy Spirit would not let me.
Wow. Now, I remember there was some few years ago, I don't know whether it was connected to some of those moments, but some few years ago, you actually shared a Google Drive link to your album.
I did.
Was it connected to those seasons?
It was connected to some of those seasons, because then I felt like you have all this good work that is there, and just because you are not employing the system, it's sitting down there and nobody is having access to it. So for it to rather sit down there, and because you are not connected to radio stations and things, nobody is hearing it or something, just put a drive out there. Let people who really want it have access to it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Somebody would say it was a very stupid move in terms of finance or something. But for me, I didn't see the point in going through certain processes when at the end of the day, it's not like it will even work, because you don't have a certain posture, Yeah.
Wow.
Have I been through depression before? I'm sure I didn't know it was called depression.
Tell us about it.
So those are those moments when you feel very, very low about yourself and about the call God has given you. I can tell you, I have, over the period, understood what Prophet Elijah went through.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, God has used you in many seasons and to be a blessing to people and all. And then after sometimes, like, you feel like you don't matter, you've been discarded. And then, like, almost everybody else
they've moved on.
Is moved on. And you are like, hey, hi guys, I'm still here, And it's just because you don't want to compromise certain things. You get it?
Interesting.
And so in that space, I've grown out of that space many years. And one of the lessons I learned is that nobody is paying attention to what God called you to do does not mean that God has not called you.
True. It doesn't validate your call.
It doesn't. Yes, the people don't validate your call. It is God who validates your call. And sometimes God would allow that to happen so that you will know who is your source of validation.
Wow.